It's been a lot of work to just get our tomatoes to this point. Even without hiccups or mistakes, the steps we took to create a viable tomato crop was no doubt impressive. In short, it's been no small feat to get to where we are today. But none of that matters now because all we want to do is finally harvest some tomatoes. Sure, a lot of our grape and cherry varieties have already had some pickings, but what about those stubborn steak and slicers just sitting there, all green and seemingly stalled out? Well, let's fix that. Today, I got 5 ways to speed up the ripening process of our bigger tomato types so that we can finally start enjoying the fruits of our labor. The plants are looking extremely healthy and for the most part are producing like mad. Why then are we so worried about speeding up the ripening process of our tomatoes? Well, there's 2 reasons. And the first is, the faster those tomatoes ripen, the faster we can pick them, and the faster the plants can replace them. That old saying, the more you pick, the more they produce, was virtually invented for tomatoes. As ripening fruit is removed from the vines, the plant can then send more energy to the next batch. This results in more yield overall, simply by periodically picking the ripe ones. Second, and more importantly, is time. For temperate gardeners like me, we don't have an infinite amount of it in a growing season, and if we're not careful, we might not get any harvest at all. As soon as the first fall frost hits, that's it. The tomato plants stop growing, stop producing, and stop ripening any fruit that's left on the vine. There's a window of 3 to 4 months, sometimes less, that us temperate growers have to make something happen. It's not all terrible as we can ripen the tomatoes off the vine, it's just not ideal. So, knowing this, ripening the fruit faster is not only about getting more tomatoes, it's about ensuring that you get tomatoes in the first place. Which is great because we now know the why. But what about the how? Well, the first way to hasten the ripening of your tomatoes is to stop all new growth, specifically new tomatoes. New flowers, and of course the new emerging fruit they turn into, take energy to produce and sustain. So, instead of the plant focusing on ripening the fruit it already has, its available resources and energy tend to get spread thin. Cut the new flowers as they appear and redirect that energy back into the main plant and the existing fruit. As well, small, underdeveloped fruit can also be removed, this time about 6 weeks before your first fall frost. If they don't have enough time to ripen and mature before then they're pretty much just wasting the resources of the fruit that can. This one is a bit of a judgment call, as tomatoes can most certainly ripen off the vine, but cutting off the flowers as well as the small underdeveloped fruit really does hasten the ripening of those bigger ones. Taking it a step further from our flowers and fruit, the third way to speed up the ripening process of our tomatoes is to put a stop to all new growth completely. Leading stems and branching shoots above your last row of usable fruit, as well as any suckers above or below, should be removed. Indeterminate tomatoes will keep growing until the weather actually kills the plant. That's much too late for our liking, as well as our fruit, if we're trying to maximize our yields. Total plant energy is always divided between facilitating new growth as well as nurturing the old. If half the energy is being wasted to new growth that's not going to amount to anything, then that's just wasting for naught. Take away that future energy sink and let the plants concentrate on the task at hand. Cut the node directly above your last row of fruit and remove any of the suckers as you see them. Do those 2 things and you're good to go. Tomatoes are also one of those crops that really react to stimuli, namely stress. Just the right amount at just the right time can actually ripen your tomatoes faster. It seems hokey, but it really does work. Gently twisting and shaking the base of your tomato plant to sever a few lateral roots is all it takes. Sometimes you can even hear a fibrous snapping if you do it right. Now, nothing too severe, just enough to cause the plant some stress. This act signals your tomatoes to hasten the ripening process as the plant feels like the end is near. Remember, a tomato plant's main goal is to reproduce itself through its seeds that are embedded in the flesh of the fruit. Ripe tomatoes with mature, viable seeds is the end goal here, and a little bit of stress can no doubt get us there. And on that note, we have our fifth and final tip to ripen our tomatoes faster, again using that stress, this time in the form of drought. Another big-time stressor for our tomatoes, reducing the amount of available moisture during the latter stages of fruit development, will cause the tomato plants to ripen that fruit faster, ensuring that they get viable seeds. Now, there's no doubt that sufficient hydration is necessary for tomato plants to thrive. However, plentiful water at this late in the game just encourages the growth of new leaves, new flowers, and of course new fruit. The very things that we're looking to avoid. In short, a decrease in water is going to signal to the plant that the end is near and to shift the focus to ripening the fruit. Remember though that this trick only works for existing fruit that's already on the vine and already established. It's purely designed to help stubborn tomatoes that are stuck in the cycle to simply ripen faster. If the plant is well established and has a deep networked root system, which it should have at this time, reducing the amount of moisture should pose it no harm. Even still, tomatoes are perennial, yes, but the final harvest should spell the end of the crop anyways. We have to keep track of what the real goal is here. And with that, we've covered my 5 favorite ways to ripen tomatoes faster. It feels like a lot of info, so let's go ahead and recap those main points to make sure that it all sticks. Tomatoes are the single most popular backyard crop grown by home gardeners. But for temperate growers with a finite window to cultivate, the clock is ticking to ensure a viable harvest. Hopefully the 5 tips I shared here today get you to your best tomato year yet. As always though guys, happy growing and I'll see you soon.